Welcome, everyone. I'm going to be introducing my course on Heidegger, which will open for enrollment very soon. Let me just briefly share it everywhere. And then jump right into it. If you have any questions on the course on Heidegger, put them in the live stream, please, in the live chat, please. All right. So here we are. I guess I'm live. So maybe I'll just briefly share it on Instagram as well. Sorry, just a second. So if you have any questions on this course on Heidegger, please do let me know now. And I can, if I can answer them, I'll answer them. All right. Sorry, I'll be right with you. Okay. Welcome, everyone. I'm live here now to introduce my course on Heidegger. This is a course which is based more or less on this book, which is was published this year by Springer, Heidegger on Death and Being, which is the result of the past, I think, probably 10 years or so of reading Heidegger, mostly on my own, something I haven't mentioned very often, but I'm an autodidact when it comes to Heidegger, not philosophy itself, but when I entered the PhD, I had my first lecture course on Heidegger. I had just read Heidegger on my own and thought that there is something peculiar about death in Heidegger. And so the subtitle of the book is that there is an answer to the question of being, and it can be found, as well as the unity of the so-called thinking path, through delving into death and see death coming back everywhere. And there's a profound reason, of course, for this, or several reasons, for why death is so central in Heidegger. And key to it, it has to do with notions of Unverfügbarkeit, uncontrollability, non-availability, and withdrawal, concealment, etc., which is not only crucial for the later Heidegger, but also already for the early Heidegger. You could argue that it is in being and time, in the analytic of death, where death is the onmost possibility of Dasein, which gives Dasein nothing to actualize, nothing, and that death is never actualized, never. It just remains a possibility in abeyance. It is here that Heidegger makes the experience in his thought, in his thinking, that being itself is that which withdraws, but therefore grants and gives. And this sets him on the path of what we now call the thinking path, and of course also what we now refer to as the thinking of the Ereignis, which is poorly translated as event, etc., etc. So what I'm doing right now is simply to introduce some the lectures of the course, what we will be talking about, what the seminars will be like, and if you have any questions specifically on this course, you can put them in the live chat, and if I can answer them, I will. And if you want to get the syllabus for this one, then please could you just follow this link, which is down below in the description, and or you can use this link, which I just put here in the live chat, to follow if you follow it, then you can scroll down a bit, you get the syllabus, and I'll let you know as soon as enrollment opens. We have a few people already pre-enrolled because there's been a lot of interest. So if you're seriously interested, please let me know, and I can send you a link to enroll early and to get started. Now, what will the course look like? So we'll begin with 2 introductory lectures. I will introduce being and time, just the introduction. We'll focus on mainly paragraph 1 to 7, and also this seminal short, almost a dedication that Heidegger gives before the book even properly starts, where he quotes from Plato's Sophists, of all dialogues, dialogues of the Sophists, where Heidegger does say, it quotes Plato as saying, oh, it seems, and of course this is in dialogue with the Sophists, to claim that it's obvious what we mean by the word enai, or to on, being, or to be. However, we have now become perplexed. And Heidegger asks, are we even still perplexed by the question today? So, and then he goes into the gigantomachia perithesousias, the gigantic battle for the meaning of being, right on the first page. So the first lecture for this course, the introductory lecture, I will go over the paragraphs 1 to 7 in Being and Time, and most importantly, I think, on the seminal paragraph 7, where Heidegger lays out his understanding of phenomenology and ontology, where he's already way beyond Husserl. And I will also very briefly go into Aletheia, the chapter on truth in being and time. This will be the introductory seminar. There are 2 different ways, or actually 3 different ways of how you can do this course. You can enroll, and once you do, just for the lectures, you have lifetime access to the course. And that means that whenever I will probably teach this every year, or maybe every 2 years, and add new lectures, etc. So you'll get access to anything that's new and that's added to it later on. Or you can choose for the seminars. We begin the seminars in early July. We usually meet Sunday evenings. There will be 7 seminars in total. One of them will be led by Lou Sterling, who will be my TA for this, which will be a bit of a recap seminar, but also a bridging seminar between the technology and the poetry seminar and lecture. So the first seminar is on being and time, its method, its project, and to understand why Heidegger has to write being and time. It's not arbitrary. There's a very specific reason for it. It has to do with Hegel, of course. So anyone who was in my German idealism courses would be a natural continuation, because you would probably see many of the questions re-emerge that were only maybe briefly touched upon by the German idealists. So we can then, after this introduction to being and time itself, and also the introduction to the importance of death in Heidegger, we'll move on to the second seminar or second lecture, which will be on Dasein, Dasein's understanding of being. Why Dasein, right? This word that gets thrown around and is never translated, maybe isn't even translatable, which is completely meaningless, of course, in English, right? I mean, Dasein means nothing, and is not the human being. That's very important. Dasein is not the human being. If you say Dasein and you imagine some sort of a homunculus who uses a hammer, etc., lose it. Forget all about this nonsense completely. Dasein is the being of the human being. And as such, we participate, you could say, in Dasein. As Heidegger explicitly says in Fundamental Concepts of Metaphysics, I had never dreamt of describing how Dasein uses fork and knife to eat or takes the tram. So this is not what the book is about. It is about the fundamental question of being. Being and time is about the establishment and corroboration. So first of all, it's about the safeguarding and safekeeping and securing of primordial phenomena such as death and time, which is always what philosophy has to do. And second of all, it's about establishing a foundational ontology, Fundamentalontologie, which will be what? Which will serve, Heidegger thinks at the time of writing Being and Time, as the foundation for the sciences. Because the sciences are predicated, all of them, on the subject-object dichotomy, which means on a Cartesian matrix, on the, if you like, alienation between the human being and world. So Being and Time radically goes into the finitude of Dasein and tries to understand the horizon of time through the finitude of death as that which grants any arising of world and hence meaning and hence understanding of being. So this will be the first two seminars. And in a tour de force, which this course is, admittedly, will then push into or press into the second lecture and seminar on the so-called Ereignis. And we'll read passages from the Contributions to Philosophy, where Heidegger explicitly says that death is the utmost testimony to being. And I remember teaching this last year, and it was a bit of a slap in the face for some. This particular seminar, extremely difficult, but also incredibly important to understand Heidegger. Anyone who wants to understand these essays that get thrown around, like the question concerning technology, which is completely misinterpreted by the Dreyfusians when they claim that it's still got anything to do with the understanding of being, completely nothing to do with it at all. One has to know, at least rudimentary, what the Ereignis is, and it's not the event. Complete mistranslation. By the way, also Gestell as in framing is a bit of a mistranslation. So we'll go over very often trying to understand how a certain word might translate into English. Usually, the Ereignis is the event, but that completely destroys that Ereignis is that which, what? That which, as it comes into its own, withdraws, as Heidegger describes it. The Ereignis is, in the simplest manner to introduce this thought, is the realm in which the mortal finite being, the human being, is at stake in a play that the human being does not control and does not know, but to which the human being responds. And in every response, there is a showing, a coming into its own, and at once a withdrawal. At once a withdrawal. So I would like to stress this very important. So this is not going to be some silly introductory course to Heidegger or some sort of simplification of, he just means this and it's all so easy and it's all obvious. Nothing's obvious. As I sometimes say, if you leave and you're a bit confused and dislodged, then my work is done. So expect to be challenged. This is how you grow as a student of philosophy. Don't expect that Heidegger or any great thinker owes you anything. Not the case. But it's only from understanding this trajectory, which is not linear, of course, but this movement from being and time, this question to which Heidegger returns throughout his life, which is a necessary question for philosophy itself. One could say that there isn't so much maybe a forgetting of being, but a forgetting of time in metaphysics. And it will be, so the third seminar will be on technology or technics, Gestell and framing. Sometimes I follow Andrew Mitchell, positionality. Gestell means the concentration of positing and positioning. positing. That's important. Which is, so stellen is a perversion, if you like, of bergen, which is sheltering, concealing, safekeeping, safeguarding, maintaining, upkeeping. Stellen posits. It doesn't give, it demands. And this is what Gestell does, to these operations we are blind. Which is precisely why Heidegger's questioning what even is technology gave people a headache. And by the way, usually it's translated as that Heidegger is after the essence of technology. It's not the case. It's not true. He speaks of Wesen in German. Wesen is not Essentia. Wesen is, and he makes this explicit in the essay, The Question Concerning Technology, this talk given in the 1950s at the Technical University of Munich. He makes it explicit, that Wesen is to be understood as realm. As the realm, for example, in terms of Staatswesen, the realm of the state or the household, as the household or the state come into their own and become powerful, organize themselves, and then over time, if you like, abide, but also collapse. And such is also the reign and the realm of Gestell, of techniques, which has got nothing to do, interestingly, with anything technological like this microphone or this phone. It's rather about how the earth and how world begin to appear to us, including the human being. And if you like, the technological tools are expressions of this. By the way, if there are any questions specifically on the course, and if I can answer them, just let me know in the chat. If you want the syllabus, follow the link below in the description and I'll send it to you. And if you are really sure that you want to enroll, let me know also, because then I will let you know how to pre-enroll. I've had lots of interest. We've already got about 10 people enrolled now, but I'm not opening enrollment just about to everyone yet, because I do want to have a good group here. So after the Ereignis seminar and lecture, we move into techniques, into the realm of Gestell that it throws open, into which we are blind, which wants to appear as exclusive, but isn't. Because there's never, because of the fissures of being, there is never, ever, simply one or only one dimension or dimensionality of being. So we will then go through technology. And as I said, the full scope of what Heidegger is after in his technology essays will remain hidden, concealed, withdrawn to anyone who does not have at least some rudimentary understanding of the Ereignis as the realm in which the human being, which itself is withdrawn into the background, in which the human being stands, is at stake, is itself as Heidegger puts it somewhere, the toy, das Spielzeug, of being. And everything is a response. Everything we do is a response to what is and what is not. Even to say, I don't care, is a response. And it spins out into waves that we don't even can foresee. Which is, by the way, also why the translation of Seinsgeschichte as history of being is a complete mistranslation. It couldn't be further from, the history of being, people like Ian Thompson, it just means earlier interpretations of being, as if this was the most obvious thing in the world. We just interpret being, like I get a coffee and then I interpret being in this way. It's like whatever I do. It's disturbing to see this kind of, this historicization of Heidegger and this, it's also obvious. The Seinsgeschichte was not visible before Heidegger. Seinsgeschichte is not the history of being. It's the tidings of being as much as the tidal waves of being. And only then can we begin to think. So it's all, as you see, through language and through translation. So I don't think that Heidegger cannot be translated. That's nonsense. But I do think that the usual, the ordinary, the officially sanctioned translations, they're misguiding. And maybe even purposely misguiding. Because they preclude any access to thought. Right? So someone here just says, this makes the notion of Wesen so much clearer. Wesen, Heidegger is never after the essentia. He's not a scholastic. He is after the what and the how and the simultaneity of what and how something occurs. By the way, Ivo De Gennaro, who teaches in Bolzano, translates Wesen, the German, with abiding in English. I translate Wesen especially, so Wesen especially when it comes to technology or techniques, I translate as realm. Because Heidegger says it himself. I mean, we just have to read. So, okay, how can we learn about Heidegger without completion of any secondary school? Well, who cares about what is secondary school? I mean, you don't have to have completed anything. I would say this to anyone. So, read. So, first of all, if you start reading Heidegger, yes, or any philosopher, it's extremely difficult. It's just to say the obvious. And you should, this is not, this is too difficult, I'm not going to read it. This should, if it pulls you in, you understand nothing, that's how you begin. You don't begin by, this is all clear to me. Oh, I know everything. This is what many of these scholars do, just don't worry. When Heidegger says this, it actually just means this. It's all clear. It's just a different way of saying it's propositional truth. It's not yet fully propositional. And I'm putting on a Northern American accent for a reason. Anyways, so you start, if you're not sure about this course, start reading, for example, what's a very good text is What is Metaphysics by Heidegger. Start reading this. It's very short. It's a seminal lecture he gave in Freiburg. Perhaps you could read The Question Concerning Technology. And it's about, the people who take these classes, some of them work in tech, some of them work in medicine. Some of them are students themselves of different, for example, of architecture, and others have absolutely no background in philosophy. But after a year or so of doing these courses, something begins to light up, sometimes even earlier. And yes, the courses are difficult, but they should be. They must be. They are supposed to be difficult because philosophy is not a museum into which you walk and here's a bit of Hegel. And here's just a bit of Plato is so obvious. He just talks about forms. Like it's the most obvious thing in the world. Nothing is obvious in philosophy. What pretends to be obvious is probably the most obscure. Just drill down a bit. They actually understand what they're talking about. Very often, gone. So after the seminar on technology, which is let me calculate, I think the fourth or fifth seminar, I can't really know very good, but numbers, I think the fourth or fifth one, Lou Sterling, who is my TA for this one, will teach a recap seminar, which will be, so it'll look back a bit on what's been discussed, but then also bridge technology with poetic language, which will be the final seminar. And this final seminar is, so this seminar that Lou will teach, we will read a seminal text which is not very well known, which in German is entitled Technische Sprache und überlieferte Sprache. It's a short text, and it's actually a talk Heidegger gave to teachers, I think sometime in the 1960s, where he describes the difference and what occurs in the destruction of language or the dissolvement of language into informational values, which will bridge over to the seminar on poetic language, and then is the which will be the final seminar. By the way, then there's a final seminar, which is the pro seminar where you can present a talk on your own. So let me just briefly recap. There's an introductory seminar and lecture and you sign up for this once. You can listen to these lectures until they take down this website where the course is hosted. And any addition to it over the next years, you'll see and you can come back to it and listen to it. So the introductory seminar will be on being in time and the introduction of being in time, and also the importance of death in all of Heidegger's philosophy. The course itself is more or less based on my book, published by Springer. And the second seminar and second lecture will be on being in time and Dasein. The third one on the Ereignis and the so-called history of being, Seinsgeschichte, the tidings of being. Fourth one on technology gestellt, and then the one by Lou, where I won't be there, but it's going to be a bit of a recap, but also where you read the seminal text that's not very well known on technical language and überlieferte Sprache, traditional language, the language that's delivered down. Right? As Goethe says, as soon we get by in everyday language, in every day, which is normal language, but as soon as something more profound is at stake, another language kicks in or steps in, and that's poetic language. The final seminar, where we have a bit of reading and teaching, is on poetry, on the relationship also of language and death, but also on poetic language, the fourfold, das Geviert, die Götter, die Sterblichen, der Himmel und die Erde. And in the final seminar, which should be seminar 7, that's where you can present a talk. Now, someone's asking about the origin of the artwork. I mean, there will be some references to the origin of the artwork. It's not a focus of the course, because the artwork essay is itself, for what the course is trying to get out, is an introduction itself to the to the thinking of the Ereignis. And but there are some quotes in it to understand what Heidegger means by world and earth. That's what this essay is brilliant for, but also to understand his approach to the question of what is a thing. Yeah. So someone asks, will there be some cross-cultural comparisons with the Kyoto school, for example? No, because this is a course on Heidegger, but the seminars invite this. So the seminars invite a discussion of Heidegger, for example, in light of the Kyoto school, which, as some will know, Heidegger's philosophy, it is the origin for, right? This is how it was birthed. And there will be, by the way, I can mention this now, there will be at some point later this year, someone else who is an expert, Daniel Zaruba, will teach a course on the Kyoto school through my academy. So that's coming, but this course is specifically on Heidegger. But the seminars are there for discussions such as this, right? To see, for example, and discuss the similarities between say Heidegger and the Kyoto school, or also, of course, Heidegger and Heraclitus and his own tradition from which he comes, but also which he, for the first time, fully steps out of. So, I mean, the course, someone is asking whether this course relates to mathematics. No. That's not my forte to speak on mathematics in any way. There will be a course, though, I can say also by Lou, coming in probably also towards the end of the year, we'll have to see, on cybernetics and information. And that will be more on mathematics. Oh yeah, so this is there's a question here, there's no fixation on technology. I mean, this question is asked in a misguiding way. There's no fixation. There's a question, right? There's something awkward. There's something strange about all of a sudden being able to fly, to split the atom, I mean, we shouldn't just pretend that this is normal and, this is fine, everything's just a benign continuation. To split the atom is the same as using a hammer. There's no fixation. This kind of psychologization of Heidegger, or any thinker really, is a bit weird. It's not about the critique of contemporary life. It's trying, I mean, by the way, a critique in a true sense is to look for the presuppositions of thought, right? We are thinking beings, and to be a thinking being means to do what? To ask what is and what is not. That's what it means to be thinking. Not just to operate and to function and to execute the demands, whatever they may be, within certain parameters, where the most that will be allowed is some nonsense like the ethics of AI. The question is, where does technology come from? Where does it come from? What posits this world? That's the question. So, okay, that's a good question. Any recommendations for attaining preliminary skills on how to read, write, philosophy, thinking in general that will facilitate effective learning? A total beginner. Look, a total beginner. First of all, I'll say this. To quote Ezra Pound, begin where you are. Begin where you are. There's no toolbox that you can get from anyone about, here's your philosophy toolbox. Once you know all these methods, the method, all this talk about the method, induction, deduction, yada, cannot be separated from thinking itself. As soon as we begin to think in a true philosophical manner, we are already engaging with this methodos, which means path. We are already on the path towards thinking. And again, to quote Ezra Pound, begin where you are. And in philosophy, we are always beginners. I think what you should do is not look for whether you take this course or not. I don't care, right? I mean, you have to do what's good for you. But if something speaks to you, it addresses you in your innermost, then you're on the right path. The rest will come, and it will take years, and it's painful often, but such is the way of philosophy. We're all beginners in philosophy forever. And the best that we can hope for, to quote my friend Max Gottschalk, he said, we are good laborers in her eternal vineyard. So, okay, to be more specific, perhaps less all over the place, listen to so on my channel, there's a playlist on Heidegger. Listen to that. If it speaks to you, if it addresses you, and there's something there where you think, I want to know more, or I want to understand, or not even understand, I want to begin to see what could be meant by this, then this course is for you. It will still be difficult. It will still be perhaps sometimes even frustrating, or dislodging, as I said before, a bit confusing, etc., etc. But that's all fine. The seminars are there for, so just to describe what the seminars are like. I open the seminar session. You come in, it depends on what kind of a group we get. There's usually somewhere between 15 to 30 people. And I introduce the topic for this week. You will have either listened to the lecture or watched the lecture or read anything, or maybe even just you do the reading but not listen to the lecture, whatever you have time for. Or you just listen to the lecture but you don't do any of the reading. There's different kind of learners, etc. Then you come in, I introduce the topic again. There will be 2 questions and there will be sessions of like 20 minutes, 20 minutes. So 2 breakout sessions. Let's say there's 30 people, so there'll be 4 or 5 per group, where you then join in and you can discuss it with your peers. And it's a very intense time. It's 7 Sundays in a row, where you always meet with the same people. You always probably end up with someone else in every single group. But this, of course, gives you the chance to experiment, right? I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, this is blatantly wrong. How dare you say this? I'm quite strict. But I've noticed that this, for me personally, the stricter the teacher, the more I learned, and the more you actually taken seriously as an individual. I think it's an insult what's being done currently in many of the classrooms I've seen myself as a student, where, oh, this is so great. Every young lecturer said, oh, this is so wonderful. You're all really great. Because they're scared about, their evaluation sheets. They want to rank high. They want to rank high. Sorry. So you're not. I don't think you're not really taking the people who are there to learn. You don't take them seriously then. So there will be challenge, and there is a certain demand to say, but ultimately, the seminars are there to be generative and to be creative. Something should, all of a sudden, and sometimes it happens, right? That all of a sudden there's a light shining on something, on a certain phenomenon of our existence, of our time, of our epoch that you maybe didn't see before. So you have to come, speak in a bit of a weird slogan, with an open heart and open mind, and that's it. But there is no toolbox for philosophy. That's nonsense. There's no you type up all the methodology and then you can understand every single text. No, it's through the text that we begin to think, and it's through the discussion, through the dialogue, through logos itself, that we begin also to gather ourselves and to begin to understand what is and what is not, which is ultimately what the philosophical question is. And this is a course on this question. It's a course on the question of being, meaning of being, which isn't some abstract ghost metaphysical entity that's whirling around the heavens, but it's something very down to earth, and as is something that always addresses us, even in the most ridiculous everyday dealings. We always say, well, this is good, and the sky is blue, and I'm a bit tired, I'm actually quite happy, etc. There's always being, and the little word is and to be that sways there. And there's always also the question of time, of course, at once also. So I think I hope I have introduced the course well enough, or at least in a way that you think you now know a bit more what the course is about. What I would encourage you to do is maybe to read around a bit, listen to, maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll try and find this playlist for you, okay? So this is going to take me not too long, just a second, sorry. So anyone who's not sure, if you're already sure, just, you can also just get the syllabus. You can read the syllabus and then so this is the playlist, the Heidegger playlist. You can listen to some of the dialogues, some of my lectures, etc. So you know what to expect. This is going to be what the course is like. And however, if you are, even if you're not sure, you can just get the syllabus here. I'll send it to you. And you can also let me know if you're already ready to enroll. As I said before, we've got about 10 people or so enrolled already for pre-enrollment. And I'll then reach out to you if you're really certain, and I'll let you know how to do that. So Waldbach, good name. It is important to emphasize this point, the liberating and creative nature of these engagements, so that Heidegger is not simply questioned according to conceptual definitions and textbook answers. Yes, I don't know who you are. Maybe I know you. If I don't know you yet, please sign up. Because look, I'm not, to quote Chev Loveland, one of my friends, he once said in one of the seminars, Johannes, this is not the university. He's not cookie cutting us. I think that was his expression for it. So this is not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to turn you into Heidegger scholars. I'm not even trying to turn you into Heideggerians, whatever that is even supposed to be. But to begin to think. And there's no method to begin to think, right? This is here's your method book and learn that method. No, you begin to embark on a questioning path. And this is where energies, if you like, are really released. There's so much talk about lifelong learning and creative learning, etc., etc. There is a way to release this, but it has to be in this genuinely open, non-instrumental way. Because one of the things that happens, interestingly, is that you sign up and there's a honorarium, a fee you have to pay, which helps me keep the lights on because I'm a self-employed philosopher, if you can believe it or not. That's how I make my living and nothing else. So, but once you're in the classroom, this is all gone, right? And the strange thing about, especially in the Anglo-American world, but even in countries where your studies are free, for example, in Germany, even there it's instrumental because you're studying towards a degree which will then get you a job. And here you will get nothing, no piece of paper. No, you'll just be there in your presence and hopefully come into your own. And the other good thing, of course, is you meet other people. You meet other people who read, and you can join in reading groups. There's been a group now who've been reading Heidegger for, I think, about a year. This is June, so I think they started in June or July last year. They just finished Being in Time, and they are about to start reading Path Marks, this collection of essays by Heidegger, which is very important. The letter on humanism is in there. What is metaphysics, which I mentioned before. His response to Ernst Jünger on nihilism. By the way, yes, so nihilism will be a part of the course as well, obviously. So, and to join one of these courses means also to get, access. But you can then join one of these reading groups that are ongoing. And someone asked before about the Kyoto school. I think they had a reading group on Nishitani. I'm not sure if it's still ongoing, but they had for quite some time. And as I said before, there will be a course on this coming up towards the end of this year or so, maybe in the summer already. So if you want the syllabus, there's no commitment, just to make this obvious. Just follow the link down below in the description, and I'll send you the syllabus. And if you're then certain that you want to enroll, just respond. But you can also ask me a question about the course if you want. But if you do want to enroll, then I'll just let you know before anyone else. The seminars will start on the 4th of July and then run for 7 consecutive Sundays. There will be 7 seminars in total, one of them taught by Lou Sterling, my TA, and the final one on, well, it's the pro seminar where you can present your talk and you can listen to those here on the channel as well. And if you're not certain, as I said before, there's a playlist on Heidegger, the most recent one being a lecture on Heidegger and Hegel, which will not be part of the course, but is part of my book. So you can listen to that, or you can listen to next week. There will be one coming out on ecstatic temporality, which is probably one of the most pressing questions for some people. And what does Heidegger even mean with time? Believe it or not, time has to do with self-concealment and withdrawal. So let that sink in, perhaps. But it will be, Heidegger is all about, Heidegger's thought is all about transforming the human being. That's his project. Transforming the human being out of subjectivity, out of the enclosedness of Cartesian subjectivity. I remember one thing when I was a TA myself at Warwick. Warwick University is where, with the magnificent Miguel de Bestegui, who was my supervisor for my PhD thesis, I was his TA for his course on Being in Time. And Warwick has a large contingency of PPE students. That's philosophy, politics, and economics. And they mostly study economics, and then they go off and work for NGOs or for governments, etc., whatever they do. I remember one student, a very nice chap from Italy, who won't mention his name because it doesn't matter, but he took the course, was a bit out of his maybe his, as they call it, out of his comfort zone. But after 10 weeks, I asked him, after 10 weeks, what has changed for you? Has anything changed for you? He raised his hand and he said, we are taught to think that we are units, economic units, singular, crudely individualistic, isolated, and just there to maximize utility. This is how I grew up. And now I'm beginning to see that even this isolation is only possible if there is more fundamentally being with others and being in the world. And he did not turn into a Heideggerian. He probably does not know or didn't know all the perfect lingo, which doesn't matter. It is transformative, but you have to let yourself into the depths of this well in order to quote Heidegger, in order to see the stars by daylight. There's no night without day, and no day without night, and no light without darkness. And with Heidegger, we can begin to learn the simultaneity of that which reveals itself and at the same time at once closes itself off and conceals. So, I'd like to thank you very much for listening. I'll say it again, if you want the syllabus, then just follow the link down below in the description. And if you know anyone who might be interested in a course, even if you're not, feel free to share the link with them to this video or to get the syllabus. You can always get the syllabus without signing up for the course, just to say the very obvious. And I will then be in touch with when it comes time to enroll. There are 3 different ways of doing this. If you don't have time for the seminars, you can just sign up for the lectures. And you will have access for as long as this website keeps going, whether the lectures are hosted, to this course and to any addition or modification of the course I will do over time. And you can, then of course there's the seminar tier, but then there's also one where you can have private tutorials with me if you so desire. But there's only a few of them because I haven't got that much time this year. There will be only 3, and I think one of them is already gone. So if you want to do that, just sign up quickly. So yes, thank you very much indeed. I hope to see you again very soon. As I said, if you want the syllabus, follow the link. And if you have any questions on the course, just put it in the forum as well. I'll be happy to respond to you. And wish you a very good evening. Thank you very much for listening, for your time. And I'll see you very soon. Good night.